Hi there, this is Two Legs Better. Welcome to my channel, and I just want to record some of my thoughts. So it's been a while since my last broadcast. So just but the game is going to happen tomorrow, and I have some thoughts on that, and I want to share with you. And so welcome to my channel. Now, the the thing about this year's playoff is not a whole lot of surprises happen. I'm not talking about I don't know. I'm not saying everything is going according to plan, but not that many unexpected events. But there are some interesting things in this whole process, and so one thing that's really intrigued me was how much disrespect or lack of respect that the Ohio State Buckeyes and the Indiana Hoosiers have in this process. It's just it's amazing to me because I'm a psychologist, so I pay a particular attention to and also sensitive to people's feelings, I suppose, and it always fascinates me. So I want to shed some lights on that, and I don't know. I'll talk about the game tomorrow. Before we get into that, I'm in New Zealand now, and this is actually New Zealand is way ahead of time compared to America. So the game for the Buckeyes happens on New Year's Eve in America, but it's already in the new year, in the afternoon of January 1st in 2026. So, but anyway, it's intriguing. It's an intriguing game for me as well. I'll offer my thoughts on that near the end of this episode, and see where we got of us. Now, before we get into that, I want to talk about some of the fan behaviors. It's kind of fascinating in its own right. So, crazy fans or lunatic fringes. Fans, I suppose, lunatic fringe fans. Yeah, this is a term popularized by Kirk Herbstreit, the ESPN announcer. That's kind of a famous Buckeye, former Buckeye, but also kind of he lost his favor among the Buckeye fans and moved to Tennessee, I believe. So it's well, that's a story for another day. But so what is kind of the lunatic fringe? So it's basically the passionate fans borderline on being crazy. Is basically. I'll give you two examples. Okay. So there was a video circulating on the internet. I don't want to give credibility to the person posting that, because the best way to deal with that is to ignore them. If you ignore them, they don't get benefit from that. They don't get the 15 minutes of fame. Then they tend to die down. This is how I deal with the things that's really it's just when don't give them credibility. You spend time on them, basically give them more exposure and credibility. But I want to talk about that. There is one fan, clearly a Miami fan, clearly is going to the game. I think he has some kind of broadcasting or something. So, but not a real media, I suppose. If you're real media, you go into the press conferences, you interview people, you interact with the players and coaches, right? What this guy did was using probably iPhone or something to videotape himself outside of the team's, I suppose it's hotel, I think. It's late at night, and he was there yelling for 7 minutes, saying that the Buckeyes lost to Indiana, who was led by one Cuban, that's Mendoza, and now they have to deal with the 40 Cubans on the Miami team. That's so funny. It's like the Cubans are suddenly great at sports now or something. Anyway, see, he was just trying to be obnoxious and just say, yeah, you lost to a Cuban now, and it's just so funny to me. and most, I mean, all the players, the Buckeye players, when passed by, he was yelling at each one of them, repeating the same sentence for 7 minutes straight, and videotaping everything. And most of them just didn't really acknowledge him, and some just kind of smirked on that. But anyway, what I mean is, you are clearly clearly that guy is a grown up man, 40, 50 maybe. It's you go there to harass some 20-year-old who play a game. How pathetic is that? I'm a lunatic friend, but I don't go that far. I mean, I voice my opinion, but I don't go there to just harass people that way. It's what sense does that make? And it's such a quality time, quality way of spending your time, I suppose. I don't know, but of course he posted online and hoping to get some click, I suppose. So I guess I don't know. I just don't think that's a healthy behavior on his part. The players, they deal with that all the time, and talk about that. And I want to talk about the Jaden Fielding. Jaden Fielding is the Ohio State Buckeyes place kicker. He has been doing great, actually. He's succeeded in over 80% of his kicks, and he even show off his accuracy by hitting the bar from the side or something. He's by and large pretty good. But the problem is, for the Ohio State Buckeyes, you are rarely the place kicker, the special teams. You are rarely put in a high pressure situations that you determine the outcome of a game. And that happened only once this year. That's in the Big Ten championship game against Indiana, and he missed a kick from 27 yards away. And that is just inexcusable. Really, it's you're doing your job. You're supposed to do your job. And then somebody leaked out a video. He was interacting with a fan, an Indiana fan, before the start of the second half of the game, I believe. The fan was not harassing, kind of taunting him, saying, can you kick a game-winning field goal or something like that? And he was responding back. To me, that's just a no-no. That's not what professionals do. You don't interact with fans that way because it distracts you. I play badminton myself. I have my fair share of making doing things right or not doing things right. Of course, I'm not that kind of a big time athlete there. So, but I can point you to if you play badminton, a Chinese pair called Zheng Siwei and Huang Yaqing. That's a mixed double pair. In one game, that's a team championship, world championship, and in a critical game, if they lost, the team will lose. I think it's a semifinal, and they were trailing by 4 points in the third set. That means one mistake, the whole team is done. It's not just them losing a game. The whole team is done because they were trailing. And if they win, they have a chance because the last game will be the female double, the women's double, and that's going to win. It's there's no question because they are just so much better than everybody else. Anyway, you just it's literally rely on that, and then they just played perfectly in 6 points straight to win the deciding set. How did they do that? By locking, by focusing on your job. So my experience on this is, when I'm in that situation, I tell myself, I also tell my partner, is that focus on your serve. If your serve is perfect, it's correct, and then everything else will follow. But how you focus, you make it perfect, just focus on that. Block out everything else. That's so much easier said than done. Almost everybody know that, but the kind of interaction with the fans takes away that. What does it mean? It means that if it makes you focus on the result rather than the process. Because if your process is perfect, the outcome will follow. I'm not saying the outcome will be perfect, but it's more likely to be perfect. However, if you focus on the outcome, you think about, okay, what if the kick goes in? What if the kick goes out? When you're focused on that, you kind of distracted from the process. You forgot about the first step, the second step, the kick, everything. And that is how you lose focus. I mean, Jaden Fielding is still a college student. I think he's like 22 years old, 22, 23. He's still young. He will have a lot of lessons to learn in his life, and this is and that's why some people talk about the Buckeyes team were not really tested this year, which is really true, because even in the first game against Texas, they were not really tested, because Texas really, the Buckeyes defense did such a great job, and the Texas never had a chance, never really put together a threat to the team. So they were not really tested. And after that, it was really cruising. Even, the first road trip to Washington, or against Illinois, against Minnesota, and all those games, it was just too easy in a way. And on the other hand, Indiana, they were battle tested. They were, forced to the last point by, Penn State and Iowa, and even the away game at Oregon. It wasn't really an easy game. It was really, it was decided in the fourth quarter, basically. Blowout it really opened up in the fourth quarter. So they were really battle tested. So, and besides, they always had that underdog mentality. Now, the thing about back to Jaden Fielding is that because his kick, he missed the kick, that Buckeyes lost the game. If he made the kick, then Buckeyes would probably go into overtime, and then they have a chance, right? But because he missed it, then the Buckeyes lost the game, lost the championship, lost the hardwire. So, and that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is that somebody leaked his personal information, his address and his phone numbers and stuff, and I don't know. And then some people started harassing him. I understand that. I understand you're frustrated. You're a fan. You're frustrated. You think the Buckeyes should win every game and do everything right and things like that. But I'm not sure how that. I don't know. That is really lunatic French behavior. To me, at least. I think, so you are hurt, then you want to punish someone who is responsible for that? I don't know. As a fan, I have, I've been a fan of the Buckeyes for a long time, and there were some good games and also some bad games, and sometimes some things happen. It's just you really not happy about it, but I don't know. I mean, to hurt some 20-year-old in the level. I know some of you may say, yeah, well, these are kids, but they are not. They are adults, and they receive money to do a job. Yeah, but my point is, are you the one who never made a mistake in your life in critical situations? I mean, so you are perfect. You do everything you were supposed to do. And Jaden Fielding actually had a great attitude. He said, if I did what I was supposed to do, then none of this would happen. That's really, really true. So that would be a lesson for him. And I don't know, I mean, still, if the game is decided on a kick, I'm not really that confident at the current Buckeyes team. Not like the confidence I had with like Jim Tressel's team or something, but I wouldn't really go that far. I think this is game. This is not that easy. So enough about the French kind of thing, right? I mean, that's like one of the few negatives you can still find on the sports. Well, it's always there on the sports, I guess. But My message would be, let's just enjoy the game. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's great. Well, sometimes it's bad. When it's bad, try to get it out of your system. Do some other shit. Go find a vacation for yourself or something. It's just it's just interesting. Now let's get into this year's cotton ball game. This year's cotton ball game, and also about the disrespect. You know, in sports, for team sports, one of the things that can really pull a team together is negativity. If people say you're not good enough, it really just pisses people off, and people try to do their best to correct the wrong, to prove people wrong. I was I was at Ohio State in 2023 when that Fiesta Bowl game happened between Ohio State and the Miami Hurricanes. Uh, the Hurricanes, well, mostly the Buckeye fans, I believe that game, that victory by Ohio State, broke the dynasty of the Miami Canes, and render that program irrelevant for the next 20 some years. So now it's time they want some payback. About that game, there's a lot of other talk about there as well, like the flags or lack thereof, or there are, whatever. It's just a lot of, yeah. But the thing is, before that game, nobody gave Ohio State a chance. Nobody. Ohio State was the first team to win 13 games in a season. In that season, 2002 season. But many of the games were like squeaking by, like within 1 point games, against like a Purdue, who wasn't really good that year, and Illinois, I think it's double or triple overtime. So if you look at that, you don't think the team really is that good. And Miami at that point won 34 games straight. 34 games. There were most 13 games a year. They won 34 straight. So they were like untouchable. And if you look at the draft picks, I think that year, the 2003, they had like 5 first-round draft picks, and the next year they had 6. The number could be a little bit off, but I think that's about that. It's overall they have more than 10 first-round, not NFL draft picks, first round only. They have like more than 10, more than a dozen, first round picks on that team, So it was clearly a loaded team. The Buckeyes had a lot of draft picks, but I don't think they had even one in the first round. I think Will Smith was the only one. The first round at 30th, or the first of the second round. Anywho, so you know that but the point is this. There's a report that the Miami team had a victory celebration before the game. It's like they believe they won. And then of course somebody relay that to the Buckeyes team. It's like, you guys have no chance. That's how people believe. And the Vegas didn't believe them either. They were 2 touchdown underdog before the game. But then the team pulled together. The defense played lights out, and it was really a gutsy game. It's I kind of still remember the roller coaster of emotions in that game. There's so many great plays. It was so vivid in my mind. So that's how disrespect or adversity or negativity towards your team can do for you. Now this year, the Buckeyes team, they passed through almost everybody, even the preseason number 1 Texas. It feels like they were no threat at any point during the game. So when you play like that, you tend to overestimate your prowess. You feel like you are invincible. If anything is true in college football, is that nobody is invincible. Really, you can have sometimes the unexpected happens, injuries and other things happen. It's like last year in the game, Will Howard had a mild concussion. I believe so. I believe he had a mild concussion. I saw that hit, and I was like, wow. So are they going to take him out? But he wasn't taken out. So I guess it wasn't clear concussion, but I think he was totally affected by that. Things like that could have a huge impact on the game. But some other times it's like some other things could happen in the game that bring it that way. Make it unexpected, so it's hard to deal with. So anybody can beat anybody on a given day, literally. So now you look at Miami Hurricanes. A lot of people have a lot of confidence in the Buckeyes. I do too. I have a confidence in the Buckeyes based on the whole season, how it went, and what the teams did, because the Miami Hurricanes can be really inconsistent along the way. However, you are on the same field now. You don't really have an advantage right away. Really, the game starts at 0-0 and everything starts. Everybody has equal opportunity to do that. And the Miami Hurricanes, they did have up and downs throughout the season, but now seems like they are peaking. So they are in a good condition. So you can't really overlook them. But still, some of the things is really, it's kind of funny because of the disrespect. But the thing is, usually the coaches, like if you're Ryan Day, you would want to manufacture some of those disrespects to motivate your team, particularly in practices, because you want them to practice hard. And when the game starts, everybody trying to do their best. But what really have the foundation is the practice. But how you motivate people in practice, particularly if you think you already won, you think you are much better. But this year, the disrespect, not just for the Buckeyes. So I want to show you something. For one is Ryan Day. Ryan Day is not even considered the top 4 coaches in the playoff. And based on reportedly by other coaches. So when coaches were asked to name the best coaches in the playoff, and Ryan Day was not even in the top 4. The number 1 was Kirby Smart. 50% people think he's the best one. I give you that. Maybe Kirby Smart is better than Ryan Day, maybe. But Ryan Day is not in the top 4. He won a national championship last year, and if the kicker is a little bit more reliable, or it's just but those things sound like excuses. But I know I'm a homer, of course. I'm a Buckeye fan, but still, you don't think Ryan Day is even in the top 2, top 3. Anywho, so that is one disrespected factor. Okay, another one is Jeremiah Smith. He was snubbed from the Blenikoff Award. He's not the best receiver in the whole country, although he was the best receiver in Big Ten, and another receiver in the Big Ten was the best receiver in the country. So it's but whatever it is, it's a motivation for him. Jeremiah is basically like, okay, now I'm coming. I'm gonna show everybody who I really am. He it's so good. I kind of like that. I like a great player who has an attitude like that. This is just great to me. So that's another one. But those are not the most disrespectful factor I want to mention. Some people, some reputable, famous analysts on TV, like David Pollock and others, they just come out flat out and said, Miami has better line players than Ohio State. So Miami's D-line is better than Ohio State's, and their all offensive line is better than Ohio State's. It's just it's also mind-boggling. It's I can't just come out and say they are wrong. I can't say that. because they like David Pollock. He was a great player in college and in the pros, and well, maybe not in the pros, great or whatever. He was good. He was really good, and he knows a lot about football. So maybe he has a point, and I'm a fan, so I watch it from distance, from outside. So I can't say he was wrong, but I think that's just it's interesting. Now, what I can say is, it's how you judge a team, right? Now, if you look at one way to look at that is look at the All-Americans. So let's see how many All-Americans the Miami team has this year. So they have 3 consensus All-American in this year, 2025. 3 All-American consensus. Now, this is what consensus means. Consensus means that more than one outlet, because in America you have more than one, several outlets to name All-American teams, and if you're named on more than one, you're a consensus. So 3 consensus, but consensus is not unanimous. Unanimous means all the outlets consider you All-American. That means everybody thinks you are the best. So consensus means some thinks you are the best in your position. So they have a 3, and there's 1 offensive tackle, and 1 defensive lineman, that's Ruben Bain, and 1 wide receiver, that's Malachi Tony. So 3, remember that number, okay? Now for the Buckeyes, they have 3 unanimous All-Americans. That means every outlet believe they are the best in their position. And of course, there's 1 safety and 1 wide receiver. That's Jeremiah Smith. Safety, of course, is Caleb Downs. And then there's Caden McDonald on the defensive line, the nose tackle, the defensive tackle. And he's also unanimous. That means everybody thinks they're the best. So what about consensus or something? Ohio State has 7 first-team All-Americans, and that's not counting second team and third team. And so just from that number alone, this Ohio State team is loaded. It's more loaded than every other team in the playoff, and yet still they were believed to be in a disadvantage. Why? Because of what Indiana did to the Buckeyes. Indiana held the Buckeyes to 10 points, and so that's that. Maybe Miami can do better than Indiana, right? Now, Ohio State is not the only team that's kind of disrespected that way. I just love that. When the team feel disrespected, they know they have something to prove, and they lost the game. They certainly have something to prove. And now I also want to talk about Indiana. Nick Saban come out and said, you know what, who Nick Saban is? And he said, and people were talking to him, say Alabama is going to destroy Indiana because they just cannot fathom the perspective that Indiana is any good in football. They are like a basketball school, not football. These people clearly didn't watch Indiana. Indiana, they played great this whole season. I had doubts about them as well because they didn't really play that well against like Penn State or Iowa. But in the Big Ten championship game, they played great against the Buckeyes. Playing great, I think there are 2 points. When I see a team, I think they played great. For one is they don't make mistakes, and that's really, really important, because if you don't make mistakes, you have a chance. You have a chance, because if you do, you give away something really valuable, because one mistake can be really costly. But if you don't make any mistake, then the other team has to earn everything. And that is a good formula, because Now that comes down to the second point. The second point is, can you really match up? Even if you play great, you play everything right. If your horses are not as good as other people's horses, and they are also playing mistake free, then you are toasted because you're just not as good. Not this year's Indiana. Last year, Indiana also played very good. They didn't make many mistakes, but they were not as good in terms of the players. And Curt Cignati said the same thing. He said, we need more horses. We need more dudes. And this year they have dudes, maybe not well known to the rest of the whole college football world, but they are dudes because they really stand up really well against the Buckeyes. They hold their own, and sometimes they win. They sacked Julian Sain 5 times, and Julian Sain was sacked only 6 times the whole season before that. So they really did great. It's not just because they were disguising or they had some stunts or something. No, not just that, because those things don't really get you that far. You have to have the fundamentals. You have to pair well. So. And they had a perfect record. They won all 13 games they played. And still, they kind of disrespected. Why? Because the other one is Alabama. Alabama, when Nick Saban was there, it's a juggernaut. It's like, wow, that's Alabama. You just automatically assume, if you hear the two names like 3 years ago or 4 years ago or something, you would say that the outcome would be like 48-10 or something, But not this year, because this Indiana team is different. Now, again, let's look at the All-Americans. This year, the Ohio State, this year Alabama has only two All-Americans. Okay, the left tackle and the safety. And it's like the left tackle, Caden Proctor, is a consensus All-American. So he was first team on one Water Camp All-American. And the safety, Bray Hubbard, was only like second team or something, in one outlet. So they have only 2 All-Americans, and not even no consensus even. Now for the Hoosiers, they had six All-Americans, and they have the Heisman winner in Fernando Mendoza at a quarterback. So even just by that alone, you can see this Indiana team is loaded with a lot of talent. Remember, that's 6. Buckeyes have a 7 consensus first team, 7 first team All-Americans. So Buckeyes still have more than Indiana, but that's for another day. Now you compare Indiana to Alabama, even just from the All-Americans selections, Indiana has a huge advantage, and not to mention the team is well coached. The Alabama team is really, you can't say, it's hard to say they are well coached. They are still well coached, of course. They get into the playoff. Well, that's another day discussion, but whatever. So they are here, and they won the last game against Oklahoma. So Alabama it can't be taken lightly. You can't say they don't belong or they are not. You can't say all these things. But if you think they're going to win handily against this Indiana team, you're really kind of delusional, or you didn't really watch the games. But if I'm Curt Cignati, I love that. We did all these things, and people still doubt us. Let's prove them wrong, and they are more than capable of doing that. So that's just another interesting thing here. Now, so it's kind of, to summarize, it's kind of funny that the number 1 and number 2 team in the country is disrespected that way, with no solid data to support that at all. It's kind of funny to me how people's mind works, but I love that. I think disrespect is a few, so it's great. So now my thoughts on the cotton ball. The cotton ball, I now first you gotta know you can't really judge the Miami team based on the last game, the performance, because of the wind. The wind affects especially the quarterback, right? Carson Beck. You can't judge him by that one game. Of course, you have a previous game as well, and he didn't perform well in the games they lost, and he could be kind of erratic. But you just can't judge him just solely by that game. That game is an outlier, and if anything, he's going to improve. His performance is going to be much better than that game. In this game, this is indoors. They have a dome there, so his performance is going to be much better. And he's also very, very experienced. He's been there. He's played so many games in Georgia and in Miami. The other one is their running back, Mark Fletcher, and he at one point he committed to the Buckeyes. Actually, he wanted to come to Buckeyes, to come to Ohio State, but he decided to stay. And he's a lovely guy. I watched his press conference, and he's just pleasant. He's very respectful and very pleasant. I like that. He's yeah. I just like that. So I think he's going to play hard, but other than that, I don't know though. For the Ohio State, I don't worry about the defense at all. I think the defense will hold its own. They are not going to run on this Buckeye team, and no matter how good Carson Beck is, running or passing, he's not going to do much against the Buckeye defense. So I don't really worry about the defense. I don't really worry about the offense either. I think Julian Sain he's a quick learner. He probably learned something from the last loss in the championship game, Big Ten championship game. So I think he will improve, so that's a great learning experience. It's I actually love it. I don't love the fact they lost that game against Indiana, but I love that they have some other adversity there. So that's a good thing. And of course, a lot of people talk about the offensive line. The offensive line, the big news on the offensive line is Tagra Shabola, and he didn't really perform that well in the championship game. But part of that is because he was hurt. He was injured. He played his best game in the game against the team up north, and but that game can be draining. It's like everybody putting everything in that game, so they were locked in, focused. And then the next, 1 week later, they play against the Indiana, which is another, great opponent, but they couldn't. It's just that sometimes your mind, you can do everything right, but after a battle like that, in the game, it's hard to bring your body back up to their level, But now after a few weeks rest, the team hopefully is getting back to full strength. But Tagra, unfortunately, he's hurt, so he most likely, I think he's listed as probable. So he not most likely, I think it's decided he's going to miss this game. He's not going to play. And there's a Gabe Vansickle. If you're a Buckeye fan, check out his clips. And there are some clips of his plays in the championship game he played in the second half, and he did really, really well. His attention to details was the one that really impressed me the most. I think he has a great future. And the other one is Josh Padilla. He's the backup center, but also backup right guard, and he also did well. So I don't really worry about the offensive line. I think the offensive line is fine. I mean, Ruben Bain and the Miami defensive line is good. Yeah, I'm not really worried. I think they will hold their own. I think if they can limit the sacks fewer than 3, which I think is totally doable. I don't think they can get that far, and I think the game will be okay. I have my full trust in Julian Sain. He's so accurate, and the other thing is about the play calling. The play calling, the Big Ten championship game, what's lacking glaringly to me is the lack of adjustment in the second half. I think I blame the distractions in the week. I think the signing day, the hardline transition, all these things, they were distracting, but it won't happen this time. So I have my confidence, and also they made some changes, and now the Ryan Day is calling the play. I actually don't know how that works, because Ryan Day will be on the field together with the hardline. Hardline is basically demoted back to the wide receiver coach, so now his responsibility is just the wide receivers. And Keenan Bailey will be up in the box to look at everything. So I think, this is my guess, okay? It's not based on anything anybody said or something, but Keenan Bailey is up in the booth. I think he's the one that's going to be calling the plays. Of course, Ryan Day will have his input, and will have the veto power, will be the final decider. But I think Keenan Bailey is the one that's really calling the play. So, but I think it will be okay. If you are a Buckeye fan, like we have a heart-to-heart, I think we're okay. So now the game will happen in less than 24 hours, and let's just hope. I have a good vibe. I watched all the because I like focusing on the real people, the real players, real people gets involved in the game than anything else. I do look at the analysts or something, all the major broadcastings and all these like Austin Berman and other people. I like to listen to what they say, but these people are like a second hand or third hand or whatever. What I like is I like to watch the coaches and the players. I think the team has a good vibe, and they are relaxed and focused. It's I like Sonny Styles interview. Sonny Styles, he's so serious this time. He's he's like all business. I just like that, and I just like all those players. I mean, you look at Caleb Downs. Caleb Downs is trying to say as little as possible. He gives you some soundbite, some words, but nothing at all. It's so seasoned. It's hard to imagine he's just like a 21-year-old. It's just wow. He's just blows me away. I mean, Julian Sain and others, and it just I just like that. And did you watch Arvell Reese? I'm so impressed. Arvell Reese is so disinterested in everything. People say you're going to be, you might be the #1 draft pick. Okay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I just do what I do. It's just disinterested. Not even a smile at that. Is, oh, well, really? Yeah, I heard that. It's just like, yeah. So I mean, that's just what I do. I just love that. I love the personality of the guy. Arvell Reese, and it's just yeah. And then the defensive lines are McDonald's, and they are the boys are having fun. This is just great. I love the game. I appreciate the brotherhood they have over there. I'm watching from a distance, and it's just brilliant. So, um, I guess I should offer a score prediction. As a psychologist, I don't really, I'm not a big fan of predictions because, you know, there is a professor called Phil Tetlock. Well, uh, when I was at Ohio State, he was there too. He's a professor. He was a professor there at the psychology department. Now he's I think he's a chair professor at Wharton at the University of Pennsylvania, and his wife Barbara Ted, Barbara Mellers. Barbara Mellers was my advisor at Ohio State. Well, so this is really about Phil Tetlock. Phil is a world-class expert on predictions and forecastings, and he has books on that. And his research, one thing that struck me was nobody can accurately predict the future. Nobody can, really nobody can. So, but I guess I'll still try. I'll still try to predict the game. I think the one thing that's almost a certainty is that Miami is not going to score a whole bunch of points. It will be really, really a shock to everybody if they can score up to 20 points. So the real point, the real problem, the real thing comes down to how many points can the Buckeyes score. If they score 21 points, the game is practically over. And I have no doubt they will. Well, I suppose I shouldn't say that, but I think that's the most likely scenario. The most likely scenario would be the Buckeyes would be in the 30s, and I believe the Canes would be in the teens, and that should be the final score. Yeah, of course, unless the Canes prove me wrong, right? But I have all the confidence in the Buckeyes, and any way you see it, it will be a great game. And I will pay particular attention to the battle between the Ohio State's offensive line against the Miami Hurricanes defensive line. And the first 10 minutes of the game, you can see between these two units play, you can see that it will determine the game, basically. And so we'll see. So I expect a great game. So go Buckeyes, and let's hope for a fascinating game there. So this is Two Legs Better, and please subscribe and come back, and I'll talk to you more. And thanks for tuning in.